Out of what we were just discussing, a feeling of annoyance at the prevalence of religious bullying and intimidation. Everyone in this studio, including yourself, has been subject to a fatwa, okay, by Mr. Bin Laden and his associates, and we've all been told that he wants us dead. That should be enough to get people alarmed. And that they mean it can't be doubted. You can see how they've managed to reduce the civil society in Iraq, the parties of God, nearly to a state of barbarism now. They say God gave them permission to do it. We say, what an extraordinary thing to be saying, don't we? So how can anyone believe a thing like that? Well, that's my question.
But is that
how can anyone believe that they're doing what God wants them to do?
Is that not the outlier, though, honestly? There are people of faith who do not seek to kill other people or seek to divide their communities or their societies the way that the people you're describing do.
Well, I'm not a person of faith, but I seek to kill the enemies of civilization. And I tell you what, I think it's immoral to tell me to love them.
But
I repeat, it is immoral, as is much of Christian doctrine, to command me to love these people. To the contrary, it should help to organize and discipline and make colder and more rational one's hatred of them and determination to be rid of them.
Well, the ones who wish harm to you, I understand. But if people of faith are of no consequence to you, if they leave you alone, they don't think much about you.
It's the one definition that they can't meet.
Right, which is?
I am a person of faith who will leave you alone. It's not in them. How can it be? They say God cares with whom I have sex, for example. They have to interfere in my life. Some of them say God cares what I eat. They have to interfere in my life. Some say God would mind what books I read. They have to interfere. Others will say, it may be more compassionate, well, they can't watch me go to hell. They have to intervene to stop that, otherwise they wouldn't be my friend. They'll love me to death if they have to.
Right.
The one thing they cannot do is leave me alone. Hence the book. Hence the argument. No, if someone said to me, look, I'll tell you what, Christopher, you and I are not quite the same. I say, well, how is that? I say, well, my mother bore me, but didn't have sex with a man before that. I said, I had no idea. I say, well, how fascinating. He said, well, you see, it's like this. Because of that, you have to do what I say. That proves all my opinions are correct. I said, well, hold on. This sounds very weird to me, and actually now rather nasty.
Right.
Well, that's what you're supposed to have to believe.
If it were confined to them and people who believe what they believe, and did not extend over to you, and in fact there are probably people who would argue that what they believe doesn't necessarily have to extend over to you, would you be okay with that?
Well, possibly, but I'll tell you what else would happen. They'd start fighting among themselves. It's not they won't leave me alone, they won't leave people of other faiths alone. Most of the murder and torture and killing that goes on in Iraq is of two discrepant kinds of Muslim, slaughtering each other's families. The same is true in India, a Muslim on Hindu. In the Balkans, Catholic versus Orthodox Christians, and then combining to murder the local Muslims. We all get dragged into these terrible wars of faith. No, of course they won't leave us alone. They've gravely retarded civilization for hundreds of years. They're still doing it. There's no possibility of living a life that's untouched by this barbaric belief.
Well, again,